Hello and welcome everybody to a first for the cEDH cast. We are trying a new setup today. We have a fully video setup. So if you are watching on YouTube right now, you get to see both of our faces. With me as always is my co-host Brayden.
Hey guys.
So today we decided we were gonna try out this new setup and try a new thing. So we've gotten a lot of suggestions from our Patreons and people in our Discord, basically asking us to go through some mulligans and our thought process to, see our expertise in this area. We decided to go through the deck that both of us have been piloting the most lately, or just sort of in general for Braden. And we're going to go through some hands and basically break down, why we would or would not keep a hand, what goes into our thought process when we're moving through that. So, yeah.
Sweet. All right, so we're going to start out first with Ian's Evo deck. So, Evolution.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so this is my Dawnwaker Evolution deck. Just a quick recap of the deck. It is a Bruce Tarl and Thrasios evolution deck that seeks to either gain advantage by getting out an early Seaborn Muse and generating value from there, or if not, it will turbo out a number of win conditions that will allow you to make infinite colorless mana, pump that into Thrasios, etc., go for the win. So this hand here is tricky.
It's really not a fun hand to look at.
It's tough because depending on the pod composition where I'm at the table, I keep this. If hypothetically speaking, I'm going like second after a mono blue deck, I feel like I'm relatively inclined to keep this hand.
I think actually the later you are in turn order is the better, right?
The better it is, right?
Yeah.
So the more I can guarantee someone plays an island, the more likely I am to keep this hand.
And people will mental misstep a turn 2 carpet, or turn 1 carpet that's like second in turn order.
Yeah.
People will do that, so you do have to be kind of careful. And one thing that can help is just people playing their Mystic Remoras or their Soul Rings or other easily targeted mental misstep targets before you do. So being later in turn order, it helps because it makes it more likely that your opponents will start playing islands. It also is helpful because it makes it a little bit safer into interaction.
Yeah, exactly. And then eventually you can, or in usually turn 2, I would probably, depending on what we draw from here, I would be very happy with going for the Windfall because one of the main lines of the deck is Underworld Breach. So, I really have no problem just throwing my hand in the graveyard and saying I'll use that later.
Yeah, I mean, there's some hands this is like a very good hand. Tables where this is a very good hand.
Tables, yeah.
Because if you get the turn 2 Windfall with a Pyroblast as protection, also just 1 mana up after the Windfall resolves, that's incredibly powerful. However, I'd say that's pretty unlikely. Your opponents either have to be playing very heavy blue or very, very bad starting hands that don't have any fetch. Well, not even bad, just very unlikely starting hands where they either fetch into the carpet or they just didn't have any respect for it.
Sure.
But you'll probably do really well.
One thing I'll note. Oh, sorry. One thing I'll note here is that because normally you would see a Pyroblast right now in this opening hand, and I am always one to play Pyroblast first. Here's the thing. Right now, because...
Are we talking about deflecting
because
swat?
of deflecting swat.
I
Yes.
I have been a missionary for Red Elemental Blast the last couple of days. I've been telling everyone I can.
Let's elaborate for the people at home. So basically, Pyroblast, the difference between that and Red Elemental Blast is that Pyroblast allows you to target anything, but it will only counter it if it is blue. Whereas Red Elemental Blast can only hit something that is blue. It can only target something that's blue.
It's kind of similar to Fatal Push, where you could Fatal Push a Seaborn Muse, but there's no situation where you'll actually kill the Seaborn Muse. Exactly. So because of that, people have been running Red Elemental Blast because of the prevalence of now Deflecting Spot, the new Ikoria free redirection spell. So the interesting thing to know is that you choose the target on cast, but when you choose the target, you actually choose whether or not you're targeting a spell or a permanent. And if you're targeting a spell, they can't Deflecting Swat like a Thrasios if you targeted a spell with Red Elemental Blast. So
I actually had that come up in a game yesterday. Yeah.
So it's incredibly likely that you'll see a situation where they try to do that because it's just not
it's a
wording that comes up very often.
Understand. Yeah,
so it's important that you just catch it when it comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good to know.
Otherwise, this hand is like pretty sketchy. I think we agree.
Yeah, medium low.
Yeah, it's like probably a decent 6 where you just throw away like a Tarnished Citadel or a fetch land or something.
Uh-huh.
And I pray.
I agree. Pray indeed. All right. Let's check this baby out. Okay, so this one's also tough.
You do have an Arid Mesa, so you do have the blue source for the Mystic Remora.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think this is another pod composition hand, right? Against a pod of like Najeela, medium green, things like that, this hand's out of here 100% of the time. If you expect to see a lot of dorks at the table, throw away this hand 9 times out of 10. But like, if you know you are playing against like Kess, Opus Thief, and you're going early at the table, even if, especially if you're like early in the turn order, this is keepable on the back of that Remora. But apart from that, the hand's it's very confused as to what it wants to do, and therefore it's not really helping. Because I have like Kinnan, which is 1/2 of one combo, LED, which is half another, and Freed from Real. On the other hand, though, Kinnan does make cards that normally would not go infinite with Freed from the Real, infinite with Freed. So if I draw like a Birds, a Paradise, now I have that because of Kinnan.
Even if it's not infinite, it's still just disgusting. Like
yeah.
I will say that you do have 2 parts of a 3-card combo in your hand and a Mystic Remora, and when you like think of it that way, it's like not as suspicious, but you're definitely you're not happy about it. I mean, you also have a free counterspell to protect it. Like when you start putting these in the context, right? Like you have 2 parts of a 3-card combo. Right. You have protection for said 3-card combo, and you have one of the best 1-mana plays. Yeah. You have one of the best 1-mana plays in the entire format. So like when you put it in that perspective, it's like almost a keepable. It's almost like it almost sounds like an amazing hand. But the awkward part of like Evolution as a deck is that a lot of the like there's so many layers that like sometimes the layers are not there to actually keep hands for, but you're actually like playing the layers so that you can oops I win instead of like keeping a hand with like 4 combo pieces and be like, oh, this is nuts.
I agree.
So all right,
okay. Time to move on from that one.
Oh no. Okay.
Hey, there we go. So this one I really sent to Braden because I thought it was very interesting, right? Because instinctually you see a lot of good stuff here, and you think, like, hell yeah, like there's a Chrome Mox and a Mana Crypt and a Dork in one hand, but then you notice the lands.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there are 0 green sources in your hand to exile. So the thing I would think here is actually I don't know, Braden. I'd actually love to hear your opinion on this, but I would be very interested in going Chrome Mox, get rid of the Hierarch, and then just turbo out of Thrasios.
That's exactly what I would do. I think this hand's is just like extremely medium. You basically, the way I would look at this hand is you have interaction in the form of Chain of Vapor and Force of Will. You have acceleration in the form of Mana Crypt and Chrome Mox. And then everything else is garbage. It's just stuff that's meant to be thrown away. Like Pact Negation is absolutely useless in this hand for quite a few turns. Yeah. It's definitely the
card. It's a Force of Will pitch.
Yeah. Thank God it's a blue card, not even though it has a card cost in it. I think that's how I would think about the hand. And when you put it that way, it's like very, very, very medium.
Sketchy.
And the problem is like this is also a hand that when sometimes you talk about mulligans, you're like, oh, what if this was a 5? What if this was a 4? Like, what if this was a 6 or your second 7? Like, the deeper down you go down the hole, the worse this hand actually gets because of the number of things you have to be pitching. However, if you just top deck a forest with this hand, like it does get pretty crazy, like pretty quickly.
Yes,
because if you just go forest, Hierarch, Crypt, Chrome Mox, exiling, Pact Negation, you're kind of like set for life.
Yeah.
So, It's definitely an interesting hand. I'm pickier than
strange.
This though.
I'm strange. Picky. Yeah.
This is absolutely not a first 7. It's asking too much.
No.
All right.
Cool.
This one's really interesting.
Yeah. So this one's. So I've noticed something lately, which is like, there are certain pods that you can just play a turn 2 Rhystic Study, and that's like really good, and that's what I see when I look at this hand. Is I go turn 1 Mana Confluence Pass, turn 2, play, I don't know, a land, and then play the Soul Ring into a Heuristic Study.
Yeah, the Heuristic Study you got off the Enlightened Tutor.
Right, exactly.
That's really interesting. I didn't see that at all. I actually, so what I was thinking was, you just play like the player in this, like the Soul Ring's dead on turns 1 and 2, but you can e-tutor for a Training Grounds with the turn 2 Thrasios. So you go like turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 Thrasios, turn 3 upkeep, Training Grounds, play the Training Grounds. Now your Soul Ring is like, now you have like Ancestral Recall up, plus like a Wear and Tear, plus like whatever you've been drawing for the last 2 turns.
Okay.
But that's like a very medium green focused. I think that's like biased towards medium green.
Yes.
I think in this deck, like that's not really as much of a good game plan.
Yeah, I just noticed people like the turn 2 study. People have a lot of trouble dealing with. I mean, obviously, turn 1 and turn 2 is a really good time to have a study out. So that's what I would go for with this hand.
I think that's the right call. I think you get blown out by like a Swan Song or a Force.
Yeah, you totally do.
Like, you're just totally dead. You just like wasted several turns. Like basically, your plan from that point is just slam Thrasios and like grind for the rest of the game. Hope that you're like able to hold up a
luckily the good thing is like especially you can wait until the last possible moment to Enlighten Tutor. So like if you notice that your opponent who right ahead of you, they do have 1 blue open and they're like flicking their cards like they have a Swan Song in hand, you can read the table pretty well. But if everyone's tapping out to advance, I think it's a great time.
Yeah, and if you're on the play, this hand's nuts. Like,
oh yeah.
So, all right, next.
Yeah.
All right, this is an interesting one.
This is a unique hand that I have found post Ikoria. These hands are pretty freaking cool. Where you can, it's so obviously there's no acceleration, right? Which does suck a lot. But
you have 2 Force of Wills in your hand that cost nothing.
Right. Yeah. It's tough.
Here's my problem. Here's like my actual problem.
Sure.
Keenan doesn't affect your lands. I mean, if it did, it'd be busted, but it doesn't affect your lands. And so the plan here is to go 1, 2 Thrasios, 3 Muddle for Blue Tender, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
that's where this gets a little ugly. Probably. And this is why when we were talking pre-recording that I said Kinnan has those moments in the deck where like sometimes it does combo with Basalt Monolith and it looks really sexy, and then there's other moments like this where you're like, the frick are you doing in this deck? It's such a ping pong of a card. Like 1 minute I love it wins me the game, next minute I'm like, why the hell are you in here, get out.
Keenan's, I'm not a fan of Keenan. A lot of people are. I'm just not for that reason. I like I'd play Kiora's Follower before I play Keenan. Like because you gotta untap your guys, Cradle, come on. All right. The next deck is Medium Green. Medium Green is the Constitution mid-range deck I've been working on for quite a while. If you're watching this video, you've probably heard me mention it 1,000 times. So the first hand we have here is like a classic Medium Green hand. It's a classic Snap Keep in the deck. It is the all dork hand. The hand is just lands, dorks, and a cantrip, which is basically what we want to be seeing. So especially in the post-Flash meta, you get punished by this, like, basically never. You're able to play this out and then, like, have your dorks get wrathed and then just play more dorks and just keep up. The curve probably looks something like... It depends on how many wraths you're expecting, but, like, it literally might just be, like, dork, Thrasios Ponder, or it might be dork, Thrasios Dork, depending on if you are trying to sandbag dorks or not. You do want to get some type of interaction as soon as possible, so... If you see like 3 dorks on the top off your ponder, you're probably just going to shuffle them away. Like you're looking for like a Force of Will or a Fierce Guardianship, something like that. Something that just like some type of way to interact early.
Yeah.
You might even play the ponder before you play the Thrasios. Now I'm thinking about it on turn 2, but just in case they like a Sticker more or something. But you just want to slam and jam. Any comments?
It just seems like generically good hand, and also like anytime you play a deck with Tymna in it, all these dorks turn into card draw. Yeah,
you probably want to play the Death Red Shaman last, only because once the wrath happens, you can just like play the Deathrite, play the Tymna, and then start attacking in with Deathrite.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, but Deathrite, it has a sort of accrued cost where, if you're in one of those games where only 1 or 2 people have cracked a fetch, right? That starts to add up after a while. Whereas like the Deep Shadow and the Birds won't have that.
Yeah, thankfully it looks like with this hand we're probably just able to like play our lands that aren't fetches until the turn we want to activate Deathrite Shaman. So yeah. The other option actually for turn 2 is to just go land, dork, ponder. That's also the other option, but that's like super aggressive.
Right.
You're like asking to get pyroclasmed, and if your opponents aren't playing red or you don't think they're going to deluge for 2, I mean, please do it.
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
All right,
if you can take the risk, you should.
All right, so this is another weird one. You have some awkwardness here in that you have the whole goal of this hand is basically to play the Bloom Tender really early on.
Yeah.
You have to basically ask yourself, like, am I playing the Deathrite? And the answer is probably yes, because Deathrite does...
Really?
Yeah, so I'd probably exile the... either the Alliance or the Limdol's Vault. It's probably...
Oh, really? I would... Yeah, and my instinct is to get that Deathrite out of there.
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing, is that you play the turn 1 Bloom Tender, right?
Mm-hmm.
On turn 2, you can play the Deathrite Shaman, which is like a ritual, because it's not like a ritual. It's like a Metamorphose, I guess. Like it makes the Bloom Tender now tap for black-green, which lets you play Tymna.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And now you have the Deathrite Shaman to be a Tymna attacker during the next turn.
Yeah, no, that makes more sense. I didn't think about that.
That's like some weird sequencing that you like might not.
Yeah,
exactly. Like
I'm just what I'm used to doing is doing the Bloom Tender Thrasios and then just having it for that. But that also makes sense too.
And then when you play Thrasios the next turn on turn 3, your Bloom Tender just immediately taps for 4 mana, and you're able to also draw cards that turn off of your Tymna attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incredibly powerful. And then on the 4th turn, you're looking to have, if you hold up your, this is like kind of why I'm like whenever I see Bloom Tender and Lightning Tutor, my brain immediately goes to Training Grounds, because if you have a Training Grounds out, Bloom Tender taps to draw 2 cards. So then on turn 4, I can Tutor for Training Grounds, play Training Grounds. Now my Thrasios and Tymna are just gushing with card advantage.
So you're not even thinking about Freed at that point?
No, I'm too greedy.
Yeah, okay.
It could come up. I mean, like, I'm also like, so like I'm testing not playing Freed right now. I should probably like mention that.
Okay, that's unique.
So now that we have Draenith Magistrate, I'm thinking about just playing even more like Staxy stuff, if that makes sense.
Sure. And that seems to be, from what I'm seeing of the meta right now, like that's where a lot of people are leaning. Like it's getting a very Stax feel. So
yeah. So I sure like. I just like, for me, like Training Grounds is a 1 mana, 2 mana investment really in this hand, right? Or like often it's just a 1 mana investment. Well, frequently it's like a 3 mana investment.
Sure.
It's like really easy to stop. It just takes like a single removal spell or a Swan Song, and now you just kind of like blew yourself out. Or like if you have a Training Grounds and a Bloom Tender that taps for 4 mana, like that's like pretty close to having a Seaborn Muse.
Yeah.
So. Because every time you're gonna make land drops off the Bloom Tender, which is, even if they kill the Bloom Tender, is gonna make your Training Grounds even better. So
sure.
All right, next hand. All right, this is like a frustratingly tough one. It's a 1
get
land.
This the hell out of my face. What? No.
I get so greedy. I guess like the thing here is that it's just a 1 lander, and you really can't keep 1 landers in medium green, and the Mox Diamond is just spitting you in the face. The Draenith Magistrate is so good, though. Like, it is such an absurdly good magic card that it is tempting for me to keep this hand. Like, the card's very strong, and it's going to make... if I'm on the play, if I'm on the play here, I'm like, I got a pretty high chance of drawing a land off the top 2, right? Like... So these are the things that start going on in my mind.
Yeah. I think... Which is surprising, because you're like Mr. Mulligan, so I'm surprised that this is
I love Draenith Magistrate. And to be honest, though, when we're doing these like test mulligans, it's definitely easier for me to be like more relaxed, because like in the moment I'm like shuffling the cards in my hand, and I'm like, this doesn't have a turn 1 dork. I will also say I have like in my head a mental like loop that is just like, does this have a turn 1 dork? Does it have a turn 1 dork? Anytime it's a turn 1 dork, I honestly have like a bias against the hand, to be honest. So we'll see.
That's fair.
Next hand.
Yeah.
All right. So this is like another odd one, sort of, kind of. Mm-hmm. It's 3 lands, which is a lot, and 2 dorks, which is like what we want to see. Has some interaction, which is like appealing. It means we can, like, usually this mental misstep is going to be hitting either like a Mana Vault, Dark Ritual, because like I'm imagining we're playing against an Adnals deck,
mm-hmm.
or it's going to hit like a Mystic Remora or a Carpet Flowers, which is like we're really happy to see, or it's going to counter like a removal spell, or counter spell for a Smothering Tithe. I will say like this is a very good example of a hand where like I would be extremely greedy about my mental misstep because it's protecting a Smothering Tithe, and that card's busted. So I'm very greedy about my mental missteps. I think the card's like really good, and that's why I like. We could have a whole episode where Ian and I just talk about mental misstep. I think.
Yeah, I've definitely moved a lot closer to your camp after we talked about it a while back. I'm definitely more in the hold it up till you really want to use it. Yeah. And things like a fish, like a carpet, like I'm still
like a fish is a card that represents you losing the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many fish resolve? How many fish is like a card that has multiple meanings now? How many
Mystic Remoras?
Yeah, how many Mystic Remoras can resolve, where you win that game? It's like it's less than 25% of the time. Right, like your likelihood of winning the game goes significantly down when your opponent has a Mystic Remora, right? So I don't want to risk it unless I think the table's like triple Yisan, then maybe I'll feel differently. But all right, this is our last one. This hand's weird. It's like really unsatisfying. It has acceleration in the form of Enlightened Tutor, sort of. But like Jace is super color intensive, right?
Yeah, right. So like even if you get a crypt here, like you're not doing anything with it, right?
Yeah. And then it lets me play a turn 2 Tymna, which is like not the worst. Like I'm not like sad about it, but I'm also making the assumption that my Enlightened Tutor is gonna be able to be cast off the Exotic Orchard, right?
Right.
Which is like also problematic. So there's some cute stuff here where you like go like Watery Crave, Training Grounds, Forest, Thrasios. Next turn, you E-Tutor for Training Grounds, replay the Training Grounds, and then you have like a Thrasios activation up or something.
Training Grounds already.
Oh, sorry. Mana Crypt. Sorry. I said the right thing, but I said the wrong cards. Yeah, so you go turn 1 Training Grounds, turn 2 Thrasios, turn 3 Enlightened Tutor for Mana Crypt. Play the Mana Crypt, hold up the activation. But it seems like super medium, and this deck, then you just have like a Jason and a Vampire Tutor in your hand that are like dead. I mean, sure, they're win conditions, but like they're dead. So
I'm with you here on that one, definitely. Especially because without the early dorks, I feel like that's kind of the whole point of your deck, right? So.
Yeah, and Training Grounds does represent like something like that, but usually what we want is like a Training Grounds and a dork. So
right, yeah, you want to have the synergy together.
Yeah. All right. That is the end of our Mulligan discussion. Any thoughts, Ian, about our little Mulligan conversation?
So, I think one thing that I've realized the more I play competitive EDH is that a lot of the game can be decided before the game starts. I think your opening hand and sort of where you are at the table really does depend on that a lot. You know, I've learned the lesson of when you go forth, you just can't keep a slow hand. You know, lessons like that when you play against someone who's playing all islands. Maybe you think about those Carpet of Flowers hands more. When you're playing against a lot of decks that run a ton of dorks, you can't rely on a Mystic Remora because sometimes they'll go, turn 1 Elephant to a turn 2 Bloom Tender, and you're sitting there with this Remora, and you've been paying for it, and now you're like 4 turns behind all of your opponents.
And you haven't really progressed your board state, and you haven't really drawn any cards.
And that's what I mean by being like the equivalent of like 4 turns behind, right? So things like that, just to ruminate around your head. Mulligans are really tough. They're really tough. I would consider Braden and I both competent cEDH players, and
the amount of times I still on a daily like struggle with the mulligan. Like we'll talk to each other about like, should I have kept that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like a thing.
Yeah. I would say like, and like the mulligan, I think is like a pretty, it's generally a pretty unsolved thing, right? Like
yes.
the mulligan cEDH is broken. It is abusable. It is consistently abusable, and it is powerful. And if you use it correctly, you're going to win way more games than you probably would have if you hadn't. Sure. However, there is a lot of room within that to have like complex and difficult discussions about mulliganing. For example, I was just talking to like a lot of people about mulliganing the other day, and a lot of the people were like, "Braden, you're crazy. That's absolutely not correct, and you're dumb for even saying that." And then there are other people who I respect as much as the other people who were like, "Oh no, I get what you're saying. I think you're right." And I mean like Shaper was like, I think what did Shaper say? I think he said, "Yikes" to my take. So it's not like it's not like we're professionals here. We're just dudes playing cEDH, and it's not like this is like a solved thing. There's a lot to be learned. There's a lot to be advanced on. However, when you're mulliganing, I think a thing you have to keep in your head, it's something I think about all the time when I'm mulliganing, is like, this is broken. The thing I'm using something that is broken. A free mulligan with the London mulligan, I think that's what it's called, is broken. It's just broken. A free 7 when you already have a free 7 every mulligan is absurd.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of 5s and a lot of 6s that you can keep that are just going to be straight gas. And don't be afraid of going down to 5 or 6. I think 4 is where you get to the point where like it has to be a perfect 4. But like there are a lot of really good 5s out there, and there's a lot of like about as many good 6s are there are about as many good 6s as 7s, and there's
I don't know if I'm as extreme with you in the 5s, but like I have had many 6s that were better than 2 medium 7s that I've thrown away. Definitely.
Yeah, I'll put it. River said, what did River say? I think River said a good 5 is still better than an okay 7. And if you've seen you've seen three hands already that were just okay, I think there's like I think you're probably more likely to see a good 5 than an okay than keep your okay 6.
Yeah. And to be clear here, we're not saying hyper aggressively mulligan to try and nitpick your hand like, I want this one card to be different, right? Because there are going to be times where you have like a close enough to a slam dunk and a 7 or a 6, and you're just keep it, like, because you're gonna mulligan sometimes, and you're not gonna see a single land in your hand.
Oh yeah, like it does happen sometimes, but like I will say, I think you win more games by over mulliganing than you do by losing, if that makes sense. That doesn't mean it's a free pass to go to 4 every game, but if you're on the spectrum, if there's a spectrum, right, of like how much you mulligan. How much more or how much less you mulligan than you're supposed to? If there's some perfect unknown amount you're supposed to mulligan that no one can really know, the people who are closer to over mulliganing are probably winning more games than under mulliganing. I think
that's completely fair.
So just keep that in mind. I mean, keep in mind it's broken, and mulliganing is not a bad thing. It's probably like I had this conversation with someone else the other day. When you see someone who has a 5. Do you think, they have a 5, they're not very well off, or do you think, they mulliganed to 5, like this person like was looking for a good hand and they kept a good hand and they sculpted down a good hand?
You definitely the first. Definitely.
Really, I'm the exact opposite. I mean, I'm glad we disagree here, but when I see someone on 5, I don't think like they kept a 5. I think, this person like knows what they're doing and they went down to 5. I mean, sometimes like I think it's more often that people who go to 5 have good hands than bad hands. I'll be honest with you.
And, wow, I completely disagree.
I think people keep 7s that aren't good because they're 7s is the thing. And it's not because like 5s are better than 7s. It's because people keep 7s they shouldn't, and the people who go to 5 don't keep hands they aren't supposed to keep. That's the thing. Like I see it as a sign of like
I think there's a line in between. I think both of our takes here.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember I started getting better. Like I started like leapfrogging the people I played with like regularly when I started mulliganing like way too aggressively. Now I've gotten better since then, but like I definitely think like I'll hear people come back with a deck sometimes, and they'll be like, oh, I didn't like the deck, like I didn't like this part of it, and the first question I ask is like almost always, how aggressively do you mulligan? Because like if it's a deck I built, it's built to be aggressively mulliganed because that's just like my play style, and so if you aren't aggressively mulliganing, you're not going to like get the payoff. I think you'll get this in Canlander. There was a player, Ben Wheeler, who'd built all of his decks to have like almost no lands in them, and the reason is because the Canlander mulligan was a custom mulligan. It was I think it was like 7-7-6-6-5-5-4-4-3-3-2-2-1. So it was broken. That's a broken mulligan, I'd say. And he would build his decks with like almost no lands in them, and people would like pick up the decks and be like, "Oh, this is 10 less lands than every other deck." And the answer was, you just mulled 6. And by the time you get down to 6 in Canlander, like with this old mulligan rule that doesn't exist anymore, like you've probably seen a good hand, the hand that has lands in it and is good.
Sure.
And sometimes you go to 5, and then it's like, oh no, I mulled to 5 after seeing 5 hands. So
okay.
All right. Sorry, the end of this like got way out of control. I just love talking about mulligans. We should probably do a whole episode about it, but this is a good place to start.
Cool.
All right,
everybody. Well, thank you for joining us for our brand new setup, and hopefully we can continue doing stuff like this. We are working on it. It's a little tough with internet and being so far away, but we are doing our best to make it work. So thank you for everyone who joined us, and hope you guys have an amazing week.
Yeah.
Bye.
I want to say one thing.
Oh, sorry.
So for the people who bought us like the webcam, and for the patrons that helped us get like this microphone, I just want to say especially thank you. This is really only possible because of the things that you've donated and the ways that you've helped, and I just wanted to say, we really appreciate it and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, it helps the channel a ton.
All right,
everyone.
Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye.
Bye.